What should never be said to the other spouse? Something, one or two things that should never be said to the other spouse.
Let's make it more of a rule. The rule is when you say something, you can't take it back. And that's the reality. The reality is when you say something in anger, you're not going to be able to take it back. So if I were to ask the women in the room, if your husbands say once in the heat of the moment, you know you're ugly, are you ever going to forget that? Ever? Is there an amount of roses that he could buy you? No amount, right? Right. And the same thing, if you turn to your husbands and say you're stupid, you're incompetent, you're selfish, words have power. And really, Chazal teach us, Ezeu chacham haroya es hanoilad. The hallmark of a wise person is they see the future. You know if you say something, it's gonna come back to bite you. It will. There's not a question about it. So it's better to hold your tongue and compose yourself. Be solution-oriented, goal-oriented. Don't win the battle and lose the war. Find out, what do you want from your spouse? Did they upset you? How are you going to present it to them so they don't do it again? So it's not just one or two things. You have to speak to your spouse like they are a very important person. They're not your maid, they're not your servant, they're not your dog. They are the most important person in your life. And the words that you say have weight. And among the things you never say is the word divorce. Unless you mean it, unless you are serious about it, if you say divorce or get, hey, this is grounds for divorce, you burnt the chicken again. You may think you said a funny joke. You devastated the other person. You destroyed the magic that Harei Amukudeshesli created. Behold, you are holy to me, created magic. And that magic dust surrounds you and your spouse in this beautiful magical bubble that you're able to live in. And you want to pop that bubble, all you got to do is say the word divorce one time. You mean it's possible that it's not forever? It's possible that that magical night that we had, that commitment that we made is not going to last forever? Oh no, what do I do now? You've destroyed it. Be very careful. Not the word divorce, not the word ugly, and not the word disgusting. Be very careful. And I will tell you that when I interview people, and I interview people for positions in campuses across America, and I interview students for trips and positions, one of the things that I listen out for very carefully are what we call charged words. Charged words means a word that was used when a different word could have been used. And the word that you used was an extra strong word. And to me, a charged word is a big fat red flag. If a person says, if I ask a student, how are you with your father? And you say, my father's an idiot. Instead of saying, my father and I, we don't get along. You just threw out a charged word. I'm not going to think that your father's an idiot. I'm going to look at you and say, wow, why did you choose such a word? What is it about you that you have to throw dynamite in and explode it in front of me, sort of a total stranger, a rabbi? Be very careful with your words. When you use a charged word, when there was a different word you could have used, that word will not be forgotten. And if I ask any of you, do you remember things that your wives said or husbands said going back 2, 3, 4, 5 years that hurt you? I promise you, there's not a single person in the room that doesn't remember at least something that hurt them deeply because something else could have been said that was sweeter, softer, and more solution-oriented.